Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, we're going to talk to a former associate of the Gambino family, and he's going to talk about how God rescued him from a life of crime. That's just ahead.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
Well, we've all seen the movie Goodfellas, and some people watch that and say, well, that's just a Hollywood script, but I'm here to tell you that it is one of the most realistic mafia movies ever made. And I know that because of my next guest, Robert Borelli. He is a best-selling author, speaker, and the founder of Robert Borelli Ministries. Thanks for coming on the show.
Well, thank you, Jeff, for allowing me to be here. Appreciate it.
Well, your journey is so incredible, and you're here to tell us that we're all in prison in a way, aren't we?
Well, yes, I think all of us have some kind of compulsive behavior that we distribute in, whether it's working, well, in a lot of areas of our life. So, but a lot of us are in prison to a lot of other things like drugs, alcohol, pornography, and other things. But for me, it was actually being in prison. So.
Wow. Well, you have an amazing story, and we're going to get into deep details on that in just a minute. But let's go ahead and show an overview video.
I was born Robert Engel. Years later, the feds gave me the name Robert Borelli. You see, I was raised in Brooklyn, New York, right in the heart of the Gambino crime family neighborhood. At the age of 20, I was arrested for 2 murders and possession of a gun, and I was paraded around as the up-and-coming star in the Gambino crime family. For the next 22 years, I was living a life that you see in the movies: drugs, money, and power. At the age of 42, I found myself at Rikers Island Correction Facility. Looking back, I realized that I had over 130 criminal charges against me in my life. I was facing 10 to 20 years. 4 months into my incarceration, I found redemption. 2 years later, the feds gave me a new identity as Robert Borelli. I bet you're all wondering why I'm telling you all this. I may not be everything that you want me to be, and I'm definitely not everything that I like me to be, but I thank God every day I'm no longer who I used to be. This is my story.
Wow, I get chills when I think about it. And then I see that your younger self, if you had a chance to talk to your younger self, what would you tell him?
Don't do it.
Well, when you were a little kid in New York, you weren't thinking about, hey, I want to grow up and join the mafia. How did it happen?
Well, you know, how I try to explain it, the best way that I think I can explain it, in growing up in my neighborhood, it was a poor kind of neighborhood, you know, low family income. And my mom and dad worked, you know, tried to make ends meet. They had 5 children. Most of the arguments in my home were over finances. They didn't have enough money for sneakers, clothes, food sometimes. So at an early age, it wasn't something that I wanted to look forward to have in my life. And then you had guys in them days coming back from the Vietnam War, drugs, alcohol, and I want to be like them. And then you had the guys in the neighborhood that protected the neighborhood, and they were called the wise guys of the neighborhood. Now, I didn't know that at an early age, but I seen them. They would have social clubs outside of, apartment buildings. They would have a little club outside it, downstairs in the bottom of it, a storefront. And it seemed like they had it all together. They had the clothes, they dressed nice, they had pinky rings, They had everything, all the glitter that somebody in my neighborhood would say, man, that's what I want. I want to have that. So I got attracted to them at an early age and started doing errands for them when I was really probably about 13, 14 years old.
And you started to get into drugs.
Drugs came a lot later because drugs, was around. I experimented in them, but once I started hanging out with these guys, the drugs were taboo. So drinking was one thing, but drugs was taboo. So I didn't get involved with drugs. Drugs came later on in life with me being around the mob guys and then hanging out on Mulberry Street, which was where a lot of the bosses and a lot of the big shots were. And then I didn't know it, but then I found out later on, but a lot of the money and power that they were getting were from the drug business.
Wow. Now, you came from a good family. Did your parents recognize that you were going astray?
I think my mom, my dad was the guy that brought home, worked and brought home the money, but my mom was the one that was taking care of the family. So I think my mom would see me better off maybe with those guys than at that point in time the drugs was coming big, pills was being big, heroin was being big, and she thought that might have been a better avenue for me than getting caught up in the drugs at an early age.
Okay, so tell us how God rescued you.
Well, God rescued, redeemed me. Well, I could go back now. I was involved with the mob for a while, and did whatever they asked me to do. The first things that they teach is, just do what I say. Don't ask questions. Whatever I tell you to do, something, don't ask why. You just do it. And I grew up in that kind of atmosphere and that kind of lifestyle. But later on, I started going into Manhattan, and guys started using, big money was being displayed, and I wanted to know how they were getting it, and it was drugs. So I started getting involved with the drug business, and then the drugs started getting involved with my business. And then back in 1993, I had a baby girl named Brianna, and I just cleaned myself up from being on crack cocaine and was there for her. But 7 weeks when she was born, I had an argument with her mother, went out and thought I'd get high just for that one night, and that one night lasted for a longer time than I thought. And because of the lifestyle that I had, her mom thought I was better not being in my daughter's life. In 1997, I was wanted for a couple of cases. One was a federal case in Florida, and one was a state case in New York. And I was hiding myself out, and then I believe I got rescued by what we call two angels. They weren't angels at that point in time in my life. They were warrant officers. But I call them my angels today because I was placed in Rikers Island. That's the last time I had a drink, a drug, or even a cigarette. So God rescued me at that point in time in my life when everybody was turning their back on me, my mom and everybody else. I was always trying to get bail money to get out of the situation. I got myself in a good attorney to get me out of the mess I created for myself. And of course, commissary money so I could live as comfortable as I can while I'm incarcerated. And everybody was turning their back on me. And I remember speaking to my little girl. Her mom would allow me to speak to her over the phone. And she happened to be crying at that point in time. And I said, Brianna, why are you crying? She said, because you won't come and see me. I mean, if I could have got medicated at that point in time, I probably would have went to get high or a drink or something, but there was nothing for me to do but have to deal with the fact that I remember so many times I was in her life, in the neighborhood, and I'd rather get high than see my own daughter. And the realization of that just crushed my heart. So when she said that, that came so focused in me, I just started crying. I slammed down the phone. I didn't want the inmates to see me cry. Ran back to my cell. And I knew about God. I didn't know him, but I knew about a God. And I just gave God kind of an ultimatum. I said, God, if you're real, either have somebody kill me or change, because I can't live with all the pain that I was living with at that point in time. So the realization of my past just was focused right there at that point in time. And I believe Christ honored the sincerity and the cry of my heart. It wasn't a superficial kind of or supernatural prayer, or it was just a heartfelt cry that at that point in time I thought that was the best thing for me, but God seen a better way for me and gave me a new beginning.
I have to ask you, did you have a relationship with your daughter now?
I do. It's a little rocky right now. It was still trying to put things together because I was in the witness protection program. I was out of her life for probably about the first 14 years of her life. So it's kind of a little bit rough right now, but we're trying to make a relationship work. So we do speak, but we're not as close as I'd like it to be.
Well, we'll be praying for that.
Well, thank you. Appreciate
I know you share your story all over the country, and you appear on the media quite a bit. We're going to put a shot of you on CBN up on the screen. This is the 700 Club, and I have to ask you, as you're sharing this story, I mean, are you fearful? Because being in the witness protection program is not seen as necessarily a good thing for the people you used to associate with.
Well, just to make it clear, I'm not in the witness protection program anymore. In other words, the government's not protecting me anymore. But I believe God, I'm under the God's protection program. So how I look at it is, I know fear comes from the devil, and I know fear can paralyze us for doing what the things that God's called us to do. So we have to stay. How could I tell other people they need to trust and give their life to Christ if I'm not willing to fully do it myself? So I think I could be an example of really, truly trusting Christ with my entire life, my whole being. And I look at it two ways. If I get killed, I'm going to heaven. Paul said it was better for him to be there within the presence of God than be down there. So I kind of really believe that. And it's, but the other thing is, if they don't kill me, then I'm here to do the work that God told me to do. And I have to put him first in my life. And that's just how I live today.
Wow. You told me right before we went on the air that you felt reborn because you got a new name. Tell us that story.
Well, basically, the government, when you go into the witness protection program, the government gives you a new identity, a whole new name. Nothing from your past can find you. And it really works good if you stick with the rules and regulations that they give you, which is really hard to do. But anyway, long story short, so what they do is they give me a new name. They give me a new name. They give me a new identity. In other words, Robert Borelli. My real name was Robert Engel. When they put me in the witness protection program, they asked me to give them a new name. I gave them a name, Borelli, and I became Robert Borelli in 1999. So there's nothing from my past. So my slate is wiped clean, and I have a fresh new beginning as Robert Borelli in life. And what God showed me is, he said, what the government did for you in the natural, that's what I already did for you in your spiritual life. I wiped your slate clean. Your sins are washed away. You have a brand new beginning in life with me. And the thing that life started in prison back in 1997 on my knees.
I want to put your book cover up on the screen so people can check it out. It's called The Witness, A Tale of the Life and Death of a Mafia Madman. I have to ask about writing the book, because as you're writing the book, you have to be careful about using real names and stuff like that. So the book is based on real events, but you're not naming any names.
Right. Some of the names are, which I got, the people were okay with, and then some of them the people weren't okay with. So we did, get some views from people who were going to be mentioned in the book. I didn't want to, use anybody's name to try to slander them in any way, shape, and form, so we changed some of those names also. But H. Scott Hunt was the writer of the book. It's my story, my life, and how we put the witnesses as being in the witness protection program. Part of that was that I had to be a witness for the government against some of my old friends. So I was a witness for the government, and Christ changed my life. Now I'm a witness for Christ.
Wow. Robert, we got about a minute left. I want you to look into the camera on the right. That's the camera that's on your solo shot. Talk to the person watching this right now who they understand not your journey, but they understand that they've lost their way. It could be addiction, it could be pornography, it could be drinking, it could be anything. What do you want to say to that person?
Well, this is what I say, and I mean it wholeheartedly, that it's never, never, never too late for a new beginning in life, no matter where you're at, what situation you're going through, whatever circumstances are surrounding you right now. It's never too late for a new beginning. And for me, it started on my knees. So what I would say to anyone who's looking for a new beginning, man, get on your knees, give your life to Christ, allow His Spirit to come in you, and then He will direct and lead you into a life of abundance. So that's my message to anyone who is involved with anything, whether it's drugs, alcohol, pornography, whatever it is that you feel like you're trapped or held hostage to. God has a plan and a purpose for you. and he managed through his son, Jesus Christ.
Amen. I can see why your speaking career is so successful. You really speak from the heart. Thank you for blessing us with this. We're going to end with the website so people can get in touch with Robert for all his speaking and books. RobertBorelli.com. May God richly bless your ministry. I'm so inspired.
Well, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you,
bet.
Jeff. Bless you.
That's it for now. We'll see you next time.